what's up, welcome back, another Genshin Impact video, and today let's talk about Arataki Itto, who is coming out, obviously, very, very soon, so, which I will be summoning on, as well. I hopefully would pull him. I am on my 50-50, so, yeah, we'll see how it goes, so yeah, just laying it out there, I personally am going to be pulling for him, right? But in terms of this unit, right, at the moment, between like him initially coming out and well, that's a weird way to put it, but you know, initially releasing, right, and this first rerun, there's only been what, 4 new characters in between, right? It's like Shenhe, Yamiko, Yelan, and Ayato, right? Not in that order, but obviously Yelan came out last, and then Ayato, right? But it really hasn't been too many new characters in between, so that's slightly interesting that his rerun actually came relatively soon, right? I'd say, right, relatively soon. But anyways, regardless, I won't say too much really changed in between him initially releasing, right, and you know, now, right, his re-release. So yeah, anyways, I guess we'll just go through his basic stuff, bread and butter. Basically, he is a charge attack unit, right? His charge attacks are relatively powerful if you look at some of this stuff, right? The charge attack, when you do perform stuff like the Arataki Kisagiri combo slashes, right? These are some really nice multipliers, especially the final slash on your charge attack, right? Again, these all really depend on how many stacks of superlative, super strength thing, whatever. Right, it's these stacks that you get from him. You get them through a variety of ways. So basically, his kit is you stack up stacks, and then you use those stacks, convert them into the big charge attack damages. Right, basically, and those are, well, during your burst, right? At least during your burst. Although you could get stacks, you know, outside your burst, but the burst charge attack, you know, stuff is during your burst, because your burst does convert, first of all, well, it does give you also a attack bonus, right? But the burst does convert your normal attacks to be infused with Geo, right? So you could actually do some elemental damage. So he's not a physical unit. He's not a physical unit. He is a Geo damage healer, right? That's for sure. And yeah, it's the strongest Geo damage healer. That aside, right, you also get some other attack speed as well. You also get a big conversion of attack bonus that you get from his defense, right, depending obviously on the level of your talent. So his defense scaling is actually pretty huge, right, in terms of his overall output. It still converts into attack bonus, so it's not like Yelan, where Yelan straight up just uses the HP itself, HP percentage herself, but Itto he takes the defense percentage and then converts it into attack, you know, bonus later on. So he could still use attack, right? He could still use attack on top of defense. Just that defense generally scales a bit better, right? For the most part. So yeah, that's nice, I guess, right? But yeah, on top of that, you know, you get these the stacks that you could get over here, right? So basically, again, burst, his thing is you get those stacks, you get the burst in, and then charge attack to use those stacks to convert into some big geo damage, right? Big geo damage. So well, also your penalty attacks are also geo, but I mean, how often would you use them? Let's be real. So yeah, anyways, so yeah, as for your elemental skill, you chuck a bull, as Paimon would call it, right? The bull chucker, right? Basically, as it says, he just throws out Ushi, right? It actually does have some really nice multipliers, low-key, right? That could just do some solid damage in of itself. And it taunts the opponent by, you know, just vibing on the on the battlefield, right? It could take a decent amount of damage. Right? It could take a decent amount of damage. It is considered a geostructure, so do keep that in mind as well, right? It can be destroyed, but generally it doesn't really get destroyed, because like the HP it actually has is actually pretty decent, and it's on field for only 6 seconds, right? 6-second on field duration with a 10-second cooldown. So unless you're doing like sacrificial or whatever, right? Generally you won't have 100% uptime on Ushi, so just keep that in mind, right? Ushi also does give you stacks. Ushi also does give you stacks for your for Itto, obviously, right? When it takes damage, all that stuff. So Ushi's also, again, on top of just taunting, dealing, you know, big damage on hit. Also, you can actually chuck this thing relatively far, right? So there's also that, which is slightly funny. So yeah, on top of the damage aspect, the taunting aspect, all that stuff, it also is very, very important in terms of Itto getting stacks as well, right? So yeah, it's a very, the concept, right? What you're trying to do is very simple. It's just that the execution of this guy's kit is slightly complicated if you want to like min-max his damage, right? And that's sort of like the thing with Itto, right? Is, again, if you do want to like get the most out of it, you'd kind of have to micromanage his combos and his stacks and such quite intensely. But you could also not worry about it and just Itto brain it and just, you know, just go ham, which you could also get some solid results out of that, right? But yeah, if you really, really want to maximize this guy, you kind of have to like micromanage a lot of the stuff, which low-key, you know, I'm not a big micromanager. I will never remember how many stacks I have. But yeah, again, if you just want to go ham with him, it's totally fine too. You can get some really, really good stuff out of that as well, right? As for the passive talents, you get extra wood, which is really, really nice. I think he's the only character in the game that does that, right? Extra wood. But yeah, your first ascension talent, right? You get when you get that consecutive. That's the slash thing he does, right? In his mode. And each slash increases attack speed of the next slash by 10%. Max attack speed increases 30%, which is very cool. And then increases resistance to interruption, which is definitely nice. Obviously, you don't want to, you know, the burst time isn't super long, right? It's not like incredibly short either. It's like 11 seconds, which is, again, not bad. Not, you know, forever either. But yeah, obviously, you don't want to get interrupted during that. And then your second ascension talent is really, really nice. Your that those slashes damage is increased by 35% of your defense, right? So that's even more damage increase over there, right? That also, again, scales off your defense. So Itto, right? I'd say at C0, he's a very, very solid damage dealer, right? I'd say he's just like, he's just a very, I'd say, standard-ish damage dealer. I would not really put him in the top ranks of like the strongest damage dealers in the game, like a, you know, Ayaka or Hu Tao, or, you know, main damage dealers, right? Like an Ayaka or again, Hu Tao Ganyu, etc., right? Because Itto, as good as he does have one slight issue with him, is that his team, like his constraints, again, as much damage as he could potentially output, right? He definitely does have his constraints, which are being, one, team comp, and two, the fact that he is Geo, right? And Geo, unfortunately, I personally would argue Geo generally is a bit better than Electro as an element, but you could also make the argument that Geo is the worst element in the game, which I don't agree with, but you could make that argument, right? But yeah, the thing with Geo is obviously you have no reactions in terms of, you know, amplifying reactions with any other element types, right? So that kind of sucks a lot, right? So whatever you get from the Geo damage is just gonna be, you know, whatever you get from himself is mostly what you're gonna be getting from damage, obviously, you know, outside of the buffs, etc., right? But you're not getting any reaction damage. It is Geo, right? And also in that same vein, because it's Geo, you also don't get the resistance shred that you could get from Verdescent, right? Because, well, it's Geo, you can't really apply Geo, right? To opponents, which also sucks a lot, right? And that also brings to his you know, other thing, which is team comps, right? And you probably, you know this already, but you need Goro on this team. You don't, it's not like a must. It's not like, you know, if you don't have Goro, Itto's useless. No, it's not that. But you kind of want to have Goro pretty much, right? On the team, because Goro is just such a great buffer for Itto. There really aren't too many defense defense buffers in the game, right? And Goro's one of them. And well, the best one as well, right? Because he gives a lot of defense bonus. He also gives geo damage bonus as well. Also resistance interruption. I mean, he's just an overall he's built for, you know, Itto basically. You know, kind of like, yeah, it's Goro's kind of like the Itto or / Geo equivalent. It's not even that much Geo, honestly. More, it really just Itto. I guess you could also use it like Noelle or whatever, right? But it's like kind of like the Itto equivalent of like Shenhe Ayaka or Sarah, right, etc., right? Except I'd argue he's probably even more limited, just because the amount of characters that want defense buff and geo damage bonus are not as much as I'd say, you know, people who could actually use Shenhe or Sarah, right? So yeah, you really want that. And not only do you want Goro, you also want 3 geo characters just to add, you know, because Goro's buffs do depend on how many geo characters you have on the team, and 3 is to max it out for the extra geo damage bonus, right? It is 15%, which is not like an insane amount, but 15% is still 15%, right? And also, he works well with other, you know, geo characters anyway, so like there's no point not going for it, right? So again, when you're considering team comps, you want Itto, you want Goro, and then one more geo unit. That third geo unit can be a multitude of things, right? It could be Zhongli, obviously, right? Very nice unit there. Gives you the big shield, gives you some resistance threat at least, right? You could also throw in Albedo, right, for some extra damage in there as well. I guess Ningguang for more geo damage bonus, plus another, you know, burst damage healer if you want, right? Again, there's just a lot of the geo options in the game are relatively nice for him, right? There really isn't like what a really bad, like even Geo Traveler, right? Even Geo Traveler straight up could be really nice for him. It's like I guess Yunjin is not the best, just because Yunjin doesn't really like Yunjin's a normal attack buffer, and yeah, you do use normal attacks a bit, right, for Itto, just to, you know, get the stacks. But again, you're mainly using your normal attacks to get the stacks rather than actually using it to do damage. I guess Yunjin's not like the worst either, right? And well, I mean, in terms of like the options, Yunjin is probably the worst, but like, you know, in comparison to other geo characters, but it's not like you're not getting anything from Yunjin at all, right? Yunjin still gives you, again, some extra damage to your normal attacks, which again, you're not really using them generally to damage, but you do a bit more damage when you're building up your stacks, I guess. Also, attack speed is nice as well, right? You know, get those, if you do have C6, you need to get those up a bit faster. So, he is constrained in the sense that, yeah, he needs a lot of those geo units in his team, but he's also not super picky about which geo units, right? Again, I'd argue the 2 best ones are probably Albedo and Zhongli, right? Obviously outside of Goro, but you know, outside of that, there's some other options are fine too, right? I guess Noelle could be a bit of an issue. Like, theoretically, obviously, again, you know, Noelle works really well with Goro as well. Then you have, like, Goro, Noelle, and Itto. It's just that, you know, too much on-field time, assuming you're running, like, DPS Noelle, right? If you're running support Noelle, it's slightly... You kind of don't really need it. if you do have, you know, maybe, like, a C4. I think it's C4, right? Goro, that could heal and all that stuff. But anyway... Yeah, as for Itto, right, again, like I mentioned before, you really just don't have too many reaction, well, not too many, you just don't have any reaction-based stuff because he is Geo, but as a Geo unit, he is obviously very nice. He basically, you know, gets the Geo team thing going, right, him along with Goro, and yeah, you're not gonna be breaking any world records with them, right, but he will get the job done. He will get the job done, right, as he does in the, you know, as RL. I say RL, but it's a video game, but like, you know, in the stories, whatever, his character, whatever. Anyways, you get what I mean. So, yeah, he's a solid damage dealer, right? He's not overpowered. He's not bad at all, right? He's definitely not bad. Let's see, he's probably one of the better damage dealers in the game, but again, he's not in terms of, you know, the like absolute top tier, you know, crazy units up there, right? But that aside, should you pull for Itto, right, is the question. There's a few considerations. First of all, consider, do you like Itto? If you like Itto a lot, then the answer is yes, because again, he's a nice unit, right? There's nothing against him, especially if you can build up a solid team around him. That's really good, right? If you like Itto, go for him, right? Again, it's not like he's a terrible unit, and in my opinion, you should always pull for units that you like. I mean, Geo teams could easily clear most, well, not even most. The Itto team could, even C0, right? Could clear Abyss 12, right? That shouldn't be an issue, right? So, pull for Itto if you really, really like him. Outside of that, though, if you really don't care for Itto as a character, as much as I like Itto and as much as I'm gonna pull for him personally, I wouldn't really recommend pulling for Itto at the moment. And again, it's not Itto's fault per se, right? It's just that, again, he does have some limitations, right? He definitely does have some limitations himself as a unit, but I'd say the bigger factors are other factors outside of Itto. But again, like his own issues, they exist, right? Again, the fact they have to run full Geo team, the fact that Geo itself as an element, slightly suspect, right? Especially if you're trying to like clear, stages with a lot of elemental shields, right? You obviously want characters with the corresponding elements to break them down quicker, which, in my personal opinion, elemental shields are generally like the end game sort of defenses that you have to break through, right? So those are going to be an issue for, I mean, it's not like he's going to be bad at, terrible at breaking. He's decent at breaking elemental shields in comparison to your average Joe, but again, obviously it's in comparison to the actual, super effective units. Super effective, what is this, Pokemon? Units that corresponding to the certain elemental shields, he's not going to be the best, all right? But that aside, right, his own issues aside, which again, I don't think are too many. Also, if you don't really like Microman, although again, you can still just go ham with him if you want. It's just that, like, the other banners up, right, and that could potentially be coming are just, like, Yelan banner is up, right? Like, if you had to make me pick, and it's not because I like, Yelan that much, well, I do, I freaking love Yelan, but that aside, right, like, if you want me to just objectively pick two banners, Yelan or Itto, right? You gotta go with Yelan. Yelan is just so good, man. Yelan's so incredibly good. And outside of that, with, let's say, Kazuha reruns in the next patch, right? Because again, it's been a while since Kazuha came back, so the chance of him coming back next patch, I would say, is relatively high, all right? So if you're like, well, if you're looking at that, like, okay, you got Yelan here, you got Itto, and then Kazuha. Kazuha will be a pretty big priority as well, right? Kazuha is one of the best units in the game, in my opinion, right? Definitely, I'd say easily top 10, top 5. I've never thought about that before. Maybe not. I haven't really counted, but he's definitely one of the best units in the game as well, all right? So it's just, he's in a tough spot. Plus, again, Sumeru might be coming soon. They might, drop a bunch of new characters. Itto just reran in a kind of a tough spot, right? I really wish they didn't really rerun him at this point in time, right? I really wish they did rerun him with some more, maybe, buffs to the Geo team before they reran him, because, like, at the moment, again, Itto's fine. He's a good unit. His current team is fine, right? It's gonna be very fun. Dude, Geo teams are incredibly fun. I highly recommend, personally, Geo teams. I think they're super, super fun to play with. Right, but outside of that, it's really hard for me to really recommend pulling for Itto if you don't really like him, right? So anyways, that's really this one, I guess. Hope you all enjoyed it. Again, I will be pulling for him, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully we don't get destroyed by it, but yeah, as for his constellations, I guess, right? They're good. You don't really need them though, right? Like, this stuff is really nice in terms of like QOL, right? It's C1. This is really nice as well. A lot of quality of life stuff, right? This is good. Like, I don't really think there's like a really bad constellation that Itto has at all. They're all, decent constellations, right? Well, maybe his C3 isn't, that crazy, but otherwise, right? Otherwise, concerts are all really good, but also not very necessary. So, anyways, have fun, folks. So, good luck if you guys are pulling for Itto, however, and I'll see you guys in the next one then.